Hello guys. If you notice, I'm doing this through the phone. Technical issues have forced me to pause Fenn recommends. I have episodes recorded. I just couldn't edit and upload. My laptop has snafu, but it's fixable. But for the next couple months, I'm gonna do this new show I've been working on and wanting to do for a bit. Album reviews. Um, I'm a big fan of music. Music was one of my first loves, but I've been trying to get back into it lately, and I'm going to talk about some albums for a bit. Depending on how if you guys dig these or not, is how often I'll do them. But I enjoy music, and I just want to do this because there's not really a lot of people who talk about music, and music is something that's available everywhere nowadays. I mean, you can find whole albums to listen to free on YouTube. There's a lot of different things you can look for there. And I would say for these album reviews, they're gonna be similar to Fenn recommends. Of course, I'm not gonna be able to play any of the music in the episodes because of copyright. But I'm just gonna talk about like a little bit about the album, like some of the background of the guys who worked on them and its history, and some of the tracks on it very briefly. Though I'm not gonna go in depth with each song because I'm very passionate about music, but I wouldn't call myself like an expert in terms of like notes like A and G and B. Although I do know how to play a couple instruments. I haven't really played in a while. This is just more based on my personal taste and what other people think of roughly. So I'll talk about this as I go. Today we're gonna talk about actually Nirvana's Nevermind. This is Nirvana's one of my top 10 or whatever favorite bands ever, and I'm gonna talk about CD. We're gonna talk about different ones too. I got some vinyl and cassettes versions of music we're gonna talk about too over these episodes. But yeah, this is one of my favorite bands. This is one of my favorite albums. This is one of those albums I listen to straight all the time. And I wanted to bring this a closer perspective because I want to showcase the work, because usually when I do movies like the DVD covers and all that, they're usually not that interesting in my opinion. There's not really a lot to them. But what's thing about these is that they're not doing these anymore. They're not doing cases and booklets like they used to. I mean, some movie box sets will only get something like this if it's like their 20th anniversary. Albums, CDs, cassettes, or whatever, they used to do these like all the time. I mean, look at this. I mean, this is like work and everything. And this isn't the best example of them, but it's a good example because there's some records that have like this gorgeous artwork in them. But yeah, this is an iconic album. I grew up listening to Nirvana a lot. I just really got into them. It's just, I liked them because of how I liked groups that weren't around long, mainly because for me it was easier to follow them. It was easier to get into their music, and it was just easier overall to get to listen and hear them and whatnot. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. The Nevermind album, it was released in 1991. It's the length of it's about 42:20, so 42 minutes 20 seconds. Most albums are like that. There's 12 tracks on the album, but there's actually a 13th track that we'll talk about in a bit, a hidden one. And that was released on DJC Records too. The members of Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, Chris Novit. I've never been able to pronounce his name right, so forgive me, Nirvana fans. Chris Novoselic. He plays bass. Sorry I didn't pronounce it right. I apologize. And the drummer, of course, most people will probably know the drummer, David Grohl. He played drums, but he's also the guitarist and lead singer of Foo Fighters. He went on after that. And the album was produced by Butch Vig, who's actually a founding and current member of the band Garage, and produced other successful groups too. And there's a site called allmusic that rates music from critics within allmusic and user ratings too. The trick, like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, because when I looked stuff up, they didn't have an IMDb Rotten Tomatoes thing for music. until I found that. But here's the trick though: AllMusic doesn't have a phone app. You would have to look up the site through your phone, so that's a problem there. But they don't really have anything like that for music, and I think it's probably because music's kind of more very taste driven. I feel like with movies and video games, like you like what you like, but there's definitely a difference between good and bad. And a lot of people can make the case for music too, but music, all you do is listen. Movies and video games, I think, require a bit more involvement than just music. But yeah, all right, let's talk about the song. All right, Let's start with all right. Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's an amazing song. It's awesome. It's one of the greatest songs really ever written, really, in my opinion, because it just made such an impact. In Bloom's another great song. This is one of those albums that has like 6 or 7 hit songs. Those super albums that come across every once in a generation. Some groups get luckier with it than others. Actually, not more than once in a generation. A group can do that too, a lot. Nirvana was one of them, really, but for a brief time. In Bloom was fantastic. Come As You Are. That's an awesome song too. It's a great song as well. Breed is interesting because it's very similar to their Bleach album days. It has the same tone and vibe from that. We'll probably talk about all of Nirvana's works at some point throughout the show. I'm not going to do them in order because I only want to go that far into it if you guys are interested in it, if a lot of people want to see it. And most people know Nirvana's music. And if you guys are curious on this works, look it up on YouTube. It's on YouTube. But if you want to buy an album, I suggest do it. Of course, their iTunes is ending. I just heard that, so that's going to be a big thing there. But most people just go to YouTube or Pandora or Spotify for their music. So, Music Fix. So, yeah. All right. Lithium's a great song. It is very what I love about Nirvana is that their music is not in your face like obvious. It's a bit more oblivious. It's a bit more abstract. My favorite songs are usually like abstract songs you could apply to most situations, and songs that you could picture in certain scenarios. I just love those kind of songs. Lithium's one of them. It's a great anthem song too. Polly's interesting. Now I watched Behind the Music with Nirvana. They talked a lot about this album. And Polly was one song they talked about. I think they talked specifically about this album, actually, in something. And maybe it wasn't Behind the Music. Maybe it was like Behind the Album or something. I don't remember. It was pretty old. But they talked about Polly. He said he based it on an incident he read in a newspaper about a girl who was kidnapped but grew fond of her kidnapper or something. You guys look it up. You would probably remember. You probably see more than I'm remembering, but I like that song a lot. It's very simplistic, but it's kind of interesting and haunting at the same time. Territorial Pissings. This is definitely something from their Bleach days. It's just straight up punk rock. Now, Kurt was getting into this phase where he wanted to mix, well, not a phase, but this like goal of mixing pop and punk, but not like pop like sellout pop, like kind of a vibe that it could be that this kind of like this universal love for a song kind of deal. And his earlier works with like Nirvana and some other groups, if you ever hear a recording, were very grungy, punk, dark, kind of screamy in a way too. But this Nevermind was when he started to try to mix a bit more pop into the punk, a little bit more. I wouldn't say conventionalism because he's everything but conventional, but more something that ingredients and sounds and writing and songwritings that pulled more people in, that kind of vibe. Yeah, but Territorial Pissings definitely it's a very kick-ass song. It's short and it's very it's something that I think got people excited. I mean, when you hear that riff, you just want to jump. Drain You is a great song, and it's on a deep track. It's like the 8th track in here, and this is another great hit song. It's just very It's a catchy riff, and it's very orchestrated. There's a lot of crescendos moments, like ups and then downs and then pauses that keep going. It kind of takes you all over the place with that. Lounge Act, I don't want to say it's a filler track, but remember reading about. I read a lot about Nirvana, in case you guys didn't hear me already. He on Bleach, he taught Kurt Cobain. He said that a lot of tracks he did on there, he himself considered kind of filler-esque. And I can imagine Lounge Act maybe being one of those. But what I like about Lounge Act, it's kind of it's simple, it's short too, but it does have kind of a catchiness to it. All these songs up here have a catchiness to them, really stick in your head. There's not really a song for me at least, that's easy to forget. Stay Away is another good one. It's kind of catchy. It's a little bit punkish, but it has more of a pop to it as opposed to a Territorial Pissings. On a Plane I find On a Plane somewhat similar to Drain You, but it's also incredibly catchy too. It's very catchy. Something in the Way. This is technically the last track on most copies of the album, and it is very haunting, slow song. It is very haunting. And a lot of good violin work in it too. A little, not like bunch of violins, just like one or cello or whatever. I don't know exact terms on that. But it's a very great song. All these songs are great. Now we get to the bonus, the 13 track. So what happened is, on most albums, Something in the Way, the song is like 20 minutes long, but it's not. It's like a few minutes. But 10 minutes in, 10 minutes after the song ends, the song Endless Nameless plays. Now, on some copies of this, they labeled this as a 13 track and cut out that silent filler. But on most tracks like mine that I own, that's not the case. So you're going to have to fast forward 10 minutes to listen to Endless Nameless. Now, Endless Nameless is without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the most brutal what the fuck songs that he's written, in my opinion. Now, I haven't listened to every single thing. I owned Bleach in this one. I bought In Utero through iTunes, which was a mistake, because I hate buying through online. I was young. I didn't know better then. And I don't own that version anymore because it was strictly online. And then of course there's some other works too, like there was a collection of B-sides I forgot the name of, Insecticide. I don't have that, and there's some other stuff too that I have Unplugged. I also have Unplugged and Live at Reading. Those are great too. But yeah, Endless Nameless, it's a very brutal song. It's very screamy. It's definitely something from Bleach, but it's much more. If this song was by the drummer who did on Bleach, then this would be a Bleach song. But it's much more. It is very similar to Bleach, but there's kind of an ambition to it. Like, they really go all out for this. In Bleach, they went all out, but you can tell that they had an idea of how far out they're going to get with it. Endless Nameless feels like they just were going to go as far as they could without any limits. I mean, there's screaming, there's yelling, it's crazy, distorted guitar, and then there's classic grunge distorted guitar, and then Grohl is just having a ball in the background, just going crazy on the drums, and Chris, I mean, he's keeping the rhythm too. I mean, it's very crazy. And I'm running out of time. I only have so much memory on my phone, unfortunately. But yeah, overall, I love this album. Check it out, buy it, look it up online, YouTube for free if you wanted to. It's one of the greatest albums of all time, and it's just very impactful for me personally. Nowadays, in my opinion, a lot of the rock music, if I hear any new ones nowadays, it always reminds me of Nirvana. Nirvana, to me, kind of kickstarted a musical rock revolution with a sound I feel like is still being replicated today. Now, granted, there were other grunge acts at the time, like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, But I always found those groups to be more metal rock. Nirvana was kind of more, they kind of went in a different direction. They kind of went more punk grunge instead of metal grunge, which the other groups did. Like, Soundgarden 2 is another good one. But yeah, I would say this is awesome. One of my favorite albums of all time. Definitely 5 out of 5 or whatever rating you want to use. And check it out. Buy it in any version you want to. Vinyl, cassette, CD, online. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Keep an eye out for more stuff soon on my album reviews. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day.